Welcome to the Stoic Golden Tribe, the place where strength meets wisdom and emotion is led by reason. In today's powerful video, we're diving into a truth that every man must hear at least once in his life. 7 things men should never do for a woman, even if you're madly in love with her. Because love without boundaries becomes weakness, and weakness in the wrong relationship becomes destruction. As men, we are often told that to love is to give everything, our time, our attention, our identity. But the harsh truth is, when you overgive without self-respect, when you break your backbone to please someone who doesn't reciprocate or appreciate your strength, you lose what makes you a man in the first place. You lose your frame, your mission, your core, all for someone who might not even value it. There's nothing wrong with love, but love should never cost you your dignity. It should never strip you of your purpose, nor bend you into someone you're not. As the great Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If your thoughts are always about how to please her at the cost of yourself, your soul, your identity, begins to fade. This video is not about hating women. It's not about toxic masculinity or control. It's about boundaries, discipline, self-respect. It's about knowing what lines should never be crossed, even when you're in love. And so I want you to sit back, take a deep breath, and reflect. Not just as a man, but as a man of value. Because when a woman truly respects you, she won't ask you to do these 7 things. Before we begin, remember to like this video if you're ready to reclaim your strength. Subscribe if you want more powerful, life-changing advice tailored for the modern man. Share this with a brother who's lost in love, and most importantly, comment below your thoughts as we go through each chapter. I want to hear from you. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Never sacrifice your purpose for her approval. Let's begin with the first thing a man should never do for a woman, no matter how deeply he's in love. Never abandon your purpose just to win her approval. This mistake is subtle, yet dangerously common. A man meets a woman, falls in love, and without even noticing, he begins to rearrange his life around her. He skips workouts to spend more time texting. He puts his dreams on hold to make her feel more secure. He stops grinding so he can be more available. At first, she may like it. It feels romantic, but over time, something shifts. The very thing that made her admire you begins to disappear. Because your purpose was what made you attractive in the first place, not your compliance, not your availability, not your sacrifice. In the words of David Dada, author of The Way of the Superior Man, a man's highest purpose must not be his woman. If a man's purpose is diverted by his woman, he will fail in both. When you chase her instead of your mission, you reverse the masculine polarity. She might not even understand why he's done, but she'll feel it. She'll start losing respect, attraction fades. You become a man with no direction, orbiting her world instead of building your own. Think of the guy who had dreams of becoming a photographer. He was hustling, building a portfolio, grinding through the weekends. Then he met her. At first, she supported it, but slowly she began saying things like, "Why are you always working? Can't you just relax for once? You're choosing your camera over me again?" Eventually, he gave in. And what happened? He lost momentum. Then he lost confidence. Then she lost interest. Why? Because he stopped being the man who had a mission. Understand this. A woman can be part of your life, a beautiful and powerful part, but she must never become your life. You were not born to live in the shadows of her validation. You were born to build, to lead, and to create impact, with or without anyone's approval. Even ancient Stoics understood this. Epictetus said, "Okay, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. So decide who you are, and then never let your desire for her attention steer you off that course. The woman who is right for you will admire your grind, not fight against it. She'll respect your fire, not try to put it out. In relationships, your greatest strength is your direction. When you abandon it, you become lost, and so does the relationship. Drop a comment if you've ever lost yourself chasing her approval. Chapter 2. Never tolerate disrespect just to keep the peace. If you ever find yourself biting your tongue to avoid upsetting her, ignoring the red flags, or accepting behavior that crosses your boundaries just to keep the peace, you're not loving her. You're betraying yourself. A man should never tolerate disrespect, no matter how in love he is. Love is not supposed to cost your self-respect. And any woman who truly loves you will not constantly test the limits of your dignity, but far too often men silence themselves. They let things slide. They make excuses for her words, her mood swings, or even blatant manipulation. She yells at you in front of others, and you let it slide. She mocks your goals, your ideas, and you laugh it off. She flirts with other men, and when you confront her, she says, "You're just being insecure." This kind of emotional chaos is not strength on your part. It's self-abandonment. Why do men tolerate it? Because they fear losing her, because they think standing up for themselves means conflict, because they believe love means endless patience. But here's the truth. What you allow is what will continue. A woman will only respect a man who respects himself. She may test you, not because she wants to break you, but because she wants to see if you have a spine. If you don't, she won't feel safe in your presence. She won't feel the masculine leadership that steadies her feminine energy. Even ancient warriors knew this. Sun Tzu, in The Art of War, said, "If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles." Now, your woman isn't your enemy, but conflict is inevitable in relationships. And if you know yourself, truly know your values, your boundaries, your limits, then you'll never fear standing firm, even in the face of emotional storms. Take the story of Leo, a successful young man who started dating a woman who constantly joked at his expense in front of her friends. He told himself she was just being playful, but it chipped away at his confidence. One night, after she publicly humiliated him at a party, he finally snapped. But instead of lashing out, he calmly said, "If you can't speak about me with respect, we have no future." She was stunned. For the first time, he showed her his spine. And you know what happened? She didn't leave. She changed, because she finally saw the man she could respect. You don't demand respect by force. You command it through action. And sometimes that action is walking away when your peace is no longer honored. Don't fear losing someone who doesn't value your worth. Fear losing yourself just to be tolerated. Drop a comment if you've ever kept silent just to avoid losing her. Chapter 3. Never fund her lifestyle. If she hasn't earned a place in your life. Let's get brutally honest here. A woman should not receive the benefits of your hard work if she hasn't earned the position of loyalty, support, and commitment. Too many men are out here acting like husbands to women who haven't even proven they're worthy girlfriends, paying her rent, buying her designer bags, sending her on vacations. And for what? Pretty face? A few texts? A good time? Here's the reality. When you hand over your resources without standards, you don't look generous. You look desperate. A real man knows the value of what he builds. He knows that his money, his energy, and his time are a reflection of his discipline and ambition, and he doesn't just throw that at anyone who calls him babe. As the legendary motivational speaker Jim Rohn said, "You don't get paid for the hour, you get paid for the value you bring to the hour." That same principle applies to relationships. She must bring value too. Now let's be clear, this isn't about being cheap or transactional. If you're with a woman who supports your vision, stands by you in your tough seasons, uplifts you when the world tries to pull you down, of course you'll want to give to her. That's earned love. But what we're talking about is giving in exchange for nothing. She hasn't invested emotionally. She hasn't shown character. She's not loyal, supportive, or even consistent. Yet you're already paying her bills like she's your wife? That's not love, that's sponsorship. Meet Dre, a self-made man in his 30s who started dating a stunning woman from Instagram. She had the look, the charm, but quickly she made it clear. She expected to be taken care of. He thought, why not? I can afford it. So he funded her lifestyle, trips, shopping, even helped her with her business. But when his business hit a rough patch and he couldn't be so generous anymore, she ghosted him because she was never with him. She was with his lifestyle. Men, listen carefully. You will never be truly loved if the foundation of the relationship is what you provide. You will be used, replaced, forgotten. Instead, create standards. Only give to the woman who shows up for you with loyalty, effort, and emotional presence, who sees you at your lowest and still stands beside you, not the one who disappears when the money slows down. Let's go back to Seneca, the Roman philosopher. He said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." Apply that to relationships. A woman who constantly craves what she hasn't earned, and a man who gives to avoid losing her. Both end up poor in character. So protect your energy, protect your wallet, and most of all, protect your worth. Drop a comment if you've ever given too much to a woman who didn't deserve. Chapter 4. Never beg for her love, attention, or loyalty. Let this sink in deep. A man should never beg to be loved, because the moment you have to chase, convince, or plead for her loyalty, affection, or attention, you've already lost her respect. There is no pride in trying to convince someone to see your worth, no strength in sacrificing your self-respect to earn temporary affection. A man's energy must be sacred. If she pulls away, goes cold, disrespects your time, plays games, or treats your presence like an option, it's your responsibility to walk away like a man with options, not crawl back like a man with none. The truth is hard but simple. If she wanted to, she would. If she wanted to call, she would. If she wanted to be loyal, she would. If she wanted to stay, no force on earth could pull her away. Men lose themselves begging for women who have already mentally left the relationship. They send long texts, over-apologize, shower her with gifts, and even accept open disrespect just to win her back. But all that does is confirm her power and your weakness. Mike was madly in love with his ex. After she cheated and left him, he begged for another chance. He wrote her letters, waited outside her job, even offered to go to therapy alone just to prove his love. She didn't come back. And if she did, would it have been real? It would have been pity, because once you beg, you give up your crown. Lao Tzu once said, being deeply loved by someone gives you strength, while loving someone deeply gives you courage. But courage is not chasing someone who doesn't want to be caught. Courage is knowing when to let go, when holding on means losing yourself. You must understand real love, real loyalty, and real feminine energy do not need to be forced. When a woman is truly into you, you don't have to second-guess her intentions. You won't need to decode her mixed signals or fight for her time. She will show up for you fully, freely, and with presence. If she doesn't, it's not your job to make her ready. It's your job to move forward. This is not about arrogance. It's not about being cold. It's about being rooted in your value as a man. You are not just a lover. You are a leader, a builder, a protector of your peace. A woman who does not see that does not deserve a seat in your kingdom. So hold your head high. Do not chase, do not beg, and do not lower your standards. A queen will never ask a king to crawl. Drop a comment if you've ever begged for love you should have walked away from. You see, brother, being madly in love does not mean being blind. It does not mean becoming a servant of your emotions or a prisoner to someone else's validation. Love should elevate you, not shrink you. Remember these 7 truths. Never abandon your purpose. Never tolerate disrespect. Never fund a lifestyle she hasn't earned. Never beg for her love. Never sacrifice your standards. Never compete for her attention. And never forget who you are, even in love. You are a man. Your time, your energy, and your love are sacred. Give them wisely, to women who deserve it, not just desire it. If you found value in this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. This is the Stoic Golden Tribe, where men evolve with wisdom, strength, and self-respect. And most of all, drop a comment below. Which of these 7 things hit you the hardest? Let's hear from the real men who've learned their worth the hard way.